Ansible Basics. This is just a quick sample demo of the core features, and it's meant to show you how Ansible works and what to expect and what can be done with Ansible. Now, this is part of a series, and we're going to cover all the stuff we cover in this video in more detail in the upcoming videos coming later in this series. Now, if you go back and check, we've already published our first video in this series about the concepts, telling you what Ansible is. Now in this video, we're just going to give you a demo of everything you can do, like running playbooks and accessing hosts and stuff like that, ad hoc commands, all that sort of stuff. So first thing we're going to show you is the inventory. So you're going to need inventory before you can do anything. So let's jump right out of here and let's take a look at the inventory. Yeah, Etsy Ansible hosts. This is the default location for the inventory. You can change where this is based on an environment variable, but that's for a future video. So we're just covering the basics just to give you an idea here. So in any case, this is what an inventory file might look like. So you have a bunch of host names. Now these, I wasn't too creative with the names. I said host 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you can place these by themselves or you can put them in groups. Now a group is something like this in square brackets like this. So I have group 1, group 2, and I have web servers. And you can list them more than once. So notice hosts 1, 2, and 3 are also listed up here. So that's what my inventory looks like. Now, first thing I'm going to show you is an ad hoc command. Now, be aware, if you want to type run ad hoc commands, use the command. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just leave this here, and I'm going to jump to this other tab. So I'm going to be running commands from this tab, and I'm going to be actually editing playbooks and stuff in this tab. So if we jump over to here, and we can run Ansible all, and this is zoomed out a little bit, that way you can see all the output from running these commands. So anyways, if you run the command Ansible, this is going to work for ad hoc commands. If you do Ansible-playbook, that's the command you'd use to run a playbook. We're just going to do an ad hoc command right now. Simplest one, you're going to start out with ping. Ping. So Ansible all -m ping. So all refers to the hosts you want to target, and M stands for module, and ping is the module you want to run. So we're going to run the ping module. One thing to note is that ping, it doesn't do an ICMP ping. It actually still opens up an SSH connection to your hosts and actually runs the ping module, which is a Python module on those hosts. So we're specifying all here, so this is going to take all the hosts from our inventory and run ping on them. So running this, and there we go. You see, this is what the output looks like, and we're going to see when we start running playbooks, it's going to, fill the whole screen with output. But one thing I want to point out is that didn't ask me for a password, and so the reason for that is I'm using SSH keys. So generally, you're going to want to use SSH keys, but if you're in an environment where you can't use them, you might specify a password, and that's actually still useful. So if you're accessing multiple different hosts, you only have to type the password once, and it'll save that password, and it will access all the hosts using that password. And you can also tell it to ask you for a sudo password if you need to sudo once you reach the host. So you can SSH to a host and then sudo to root if you need to. In any case, in this case, I'm using SSH keys. I have those set up on this host. And that's especially good if you're running things, if you're like scheduling a job to run without human intervention. And I also have passwordless sudo, but I'll show you how to prompt for passwords in a little bit. So next thing I want to show you is a quick hello world thing. So another ad hoc command here. Oops, I'm going to paste this in here. And before we run this, just notice this output up above. It's telling me it discovered some facts, and it's just telling us that it pinged each of these hosts, success on each host, right? So anyways, next command we're going to run is Ansible all-a bin echo hello world. So we're going to run echo hello world on all of these hosts. Now again, we're accessing all to run on all hosts, and -a just means to specify the arguments for the module. And this is going to run a command module by default. So any case, so yeah, the default module, if you don't do a -m and specify a module, it's just going to pick the default module, and the -a specifies some parameters for that module, basically. So let's run this. and see it ran echo hello world on each one of these hosts. So it's a quick way to run a command, run an arbitrary command across a ton of hosts. So running these ad hoc things. So next thing we're going to do is Ansible. It's basically the same thing, just uname-a across all these hosts. And you can see here, it gives you the uname output. You can see these are EC2 instances on AWS running Ubuntu. See like the kernel and stuff like that. And can you see the, anyways. So next thing I'm going to show you is an actual playbook. So I'm going to jump over to this tab over here, and we are going to take a look at, so we have a few playbooks in here, and one thing I should probably show you real quick, let's take a look at this ping playbook, ping.yaml. So this should just ping all of the hosts. Let's give this a try. Now instead of, all right, we're going to view it here, but I'm going to run it from the other tab. So Ansible playbook ping.yaml. And there we go, it pinged all our hosts. And notice the output's a little bit different when we're running a playbook. So yeah, different command to run the playbook, and you specify the playbook. Playbooks are in YAML files. So yeah, the output here shows, it'll give us it shows us each step of the playbook, and it gives us a play recap, and it's showing us, what happened on each host. If it couldn't connect to a host, it might say unreachable, could say failed for some reason, like if the command failed. Now, if it actually changed something on the host, it's going to tell you how many changes it made. In this case, everything is okay, nothing changed. It just pinged every single host, right? So there is that. So let's jump back to this tab. And so that was a super simple playbook we're running. And I'm going to go over the basics of a playbook here, but we're going to cover them in way more detail in a future video that I have already planned all out. So in any case, yeah, basically playbook, you need 3 dashes at the top here. Then in this header section, you'll have a dash. Keep in mind the spacing on this. The spacing and indentation is very important. If you mess up the indentation, it just won't work and you'll get a syntax error. So in any case, name of the playbook, you specify the name like this, the hosts you want to target. So when you're using a playbook, you don't have to specify the host in the command line. You can, but generally you'd specify which hosts or which group you're going to target. You could put a host name from your inventory or a group from your inventory, or just say all for all of them. Then you have a task section, and in here you usually have multiple different tasks. In this case, we have one task. We name the task just a ping. Then we specify the module you want to run. Now you could actually put the module name here instead of specifying it down here. Usually you'll see in the future playbook, but in any case, you don't have, the name is optional, but it's good to put it in there. So let's take a look at test task 1. So this is really simple, almost just as simple, a different task. So in this case, we're going to be running a command on the remote host, and we're going to be touching a file. So we're just going to show you how you might run that. So let's jump over here, and instead of ping.yaml, test task 1. Let's run this, and it's just going to take a sec to run, but it's going to be pretty quick. Now, since this playbook is it's running a command to just touch a file, it's telling us, hey, there's already a module you can use to touch things, so you don't really need to do that. But it's just a warning, and it doesn't matter, and we're just doing this to test it out anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Now, I'm going to show you a few more ad hoc commands you can use before showing you a real, actual, useful example of what you might do with Ansible. So we have a useful playbook at the end, like an actual useful example of a playbook at the end. But before that, we're going to try a few quick ad hoc commands. So let's see here. If you want to ping, so we already tried pinging, but one thing to show you is if you do Ansible all ping, and you can specify the user that you want to connect as if you wanted to. So if you want it, I'm by default already connecting as user 1, but you could specify a different user if you wanted to. Now a -K tells it to prompt you for the password for that user. I don't need that password because I'm using SSH keys, but that's how you would prompt for the password for the SSH user. So you do this, it's probably going to fail because I don't. Okay, so it succeeded, but I actually don't have a password set for this user on these remote hosts. So even though I specified the password, it used the SSH key anyways, and that's why it succeeded. But if you are relying on a password, that's how you do it. Now, next thing I wanted to show you is become. So become is basically sudo. Now you don't have to be using sudo. You could use sudo, you could just use su, or you could use a few other alternatives. So that's why they call it become. It doesn't always have to be sudo. It could be something else besides sudo, but the point is, yeah, it's called become. So -B for become and -K. Now you can specify become in the playbook, so it will do it for you, and you don't have to specify it on the command line if you are running a playbook. So in any case, you have a lowercase k will ask you for your SSH password. A B tells it, hey, you want to become, and a K tells you that it tells it to prompt you for the become password or for your sudo password. So we're going to do lowercase k, uppercase K, and a B. That's going to be your SSH password, your sudo password, and it's going to tell it to sudo. So let's launch this. It's going to prompt me for the password. Just type something in, and it says, hey, we're going to prompt you for the become password as well. That's that capital K. Now, if you just hit enter, it's going to default to the same password you used to SSH, but you could type something in here if you want. And let's see how this goes. So it succeeded, even though both of those passwords were bogus. I can run sudo without a password, and I have SSH keys enabled. But that's how you do it if you're not using passwordless sudo and if you are not using SSH keys. So only major downside to that, besides the pain of having to type in your password, is that you can't run it, like you couldn't create a cron job that runs these commands or runs your playbooks for you. So in any case, here's another one I'm going to run. Now, we've been using the command. So we've been using, let's see here. Yeah, like we've been using this. We've been running commands and stuff, but there's another, this example here, we're going to, instead of targeting all, we're going to target group 2, so only a subset of the hosts, and we're going to use the shell module. So this allows us to do additional things you can't do with the command module. It allows you to run a command, but you can also use extra things like the redirect or pipes and things like that. So it's a little bit better in that sense. It actually uses an actual shell. So let's run this, and this allows us to redirect to an output file. Nothing super exciting there. Notice we only did 2 different hosts, and it changed because it actually ran this command. It can't detect if it really made a change or not, so it just says changed. Now, this is actually more useful of a status when you're actually doing something like installing a package or a template or something like that. If it didn't make any changes because the change is already there, it'll do nothing and it'll let you know that. So it's useful to know. So another thing I wanted to show you is how you can copy files up to a host. Just another quick example. So we're on Ansible group 2. We're going to run the copy module and specify these parameters. We'll specify source and destination. And there we go. So we copied our Etsy hosts file to temp hosts. Not a really useful thing to do. We basically copied this file to basically both of these hosts that we ran it against. So that's a quick way to copy one file to multiple different hosts all in parallel. Now, another thing you can do, we're going to show you how you can install a package with an ad hoc command like this. So say if you want to run, whoops, so yes, so say if you want to run, if you want to install a package like, for example, Nginx, you can use the built-in, you can use this apt module right here, and you can specify the package you want to install. The name is Nginx, You want to update the cache, so you want to update your, the information that your system has about the repo before it actually installs it. That's an important thing you do on Debian and Ubuntu-based systems. So we're going to do that. So let's run this, and we are running this on all web servers. So I believe that's 3 different hosts. Okay, so anyways, this failed, and what we're doing wrong is that this command we're using a colon to separate this option and this, whereas this, we use an equal sign. Now, if you're doing everything on one line like this, in an ad hoc command, you need an equal sign for every parameter like this, whereas in a playbook, you'd separate them with a colon and a space. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. The other thing that's wrong with this is we need a -b to become. We need to tell it to become, otherwise it's not going to have permissions and won't be able to install the package. Now, for normal commands like a ping, you don't need to become, you don't need sudo, but for this we do need sudo because it is installing a package. So you need root permissions. So in any case, oops, and that has to go right here, outside the quotes. And should take just a second. There we go. It installed. So you can see a lot of output here. Reading the database. This is because it was doing an update, doing an apt update. And yeah, in any case, changed. So it installed that package on all of these. And now if you wanted to remove it, instead of saying apt cache, you're going to remove that because you don't need to update that. You just need to say state equals absent, right? Now, state equals absent. Normally the default is state equals present, so we didn't have to specify that when we installed the package. When we want to remove the package, we're going to say state equals absent to, just to tell it the state should be not there. It's basically telling it the package shouldn't be there, and it removed the package for us. So removing Nginx from Ubuntu. Now, some other things we can do. Actually, let's reinstall that. And we're going to show you how you can start and stop it too. So it should take just a second. There we go. All right, so now that we've reinstalled that back on, now we are going to show you how you can start and stop services. So let's give this a shot with the service module. Now, really, we should be using the systemd module, but let's give this a shot. So, yep, there you go. You can start and stop it with the service module. We're going to be using the systemd module later on. Let's see success for this host. So you can start things. Now, if you want to restart this, you can set the state to, so notice here, we're running a service. Service is Nginx, state equals started. So that makes sure it's started up. Now you can also say restarted. So state equals restarted. That's going to shut it down and bring it back up. So there you go. We restarted it. You could also say stopped. And there you go. It stops the service. Now let's just check this. So let's just verify that these actually are running and we can actually access the web server on these hosts. So let's curl host 1. So run curl, and we pulled down a sample web page. So this is what's on there. Now I actually had a default file on there previously. So this is what it is based on a previous template I was testing out. So it's not giving you the default Nginx file. So even though we installed Nginx, it already had some web files on the host. So we're going to see how that got to be there and how we can change that in just a little bit. For now, let's go ahead and just real quick remove this from all hosts. And we're going to move along to, I'm going to show you one other module before we do that, and then we're going to show you a useful example using Nginx. So I'm going to show you the setup module. So let's go ahead and run this. And there you go. So this will just give you a ton of different information about the variables. This basically just gathers a bunch of variables and shows you all the facts and information it has about each host. So anyways, that's all fine and great. We're not going to go too much further with that. Let's just jump into a useful example. So jump over here, and we have, so we're not going to look at this one, but we're going to look at web deploy. So we have this nice playbook here. Now this one's a little bit more complicated. So we have the name of the playbook, the hosts, only web servers, become, yes, so we're telling it, and when you run this playbook, you need to use sudo, so it's going to tell it to use sudo, and it's going to, we specified one variable here, test string. So notice, actually just jump right back here real quick, and yeah, there's too much output there. Let's just curl host one, test string. That's where it came from, right? From that variable. So let's just change that to something else. So let's actually, yeah, while we're in here, let's change test string to something unique like test string 1, 2, 3, ABC, okay? Now, this is the variables section, and we have one variable defined here, right? Now in the task section, we have actually 3 tasks. If you scroll down, you got another task down here, right? So you have this first one, you have the name of the task and the module it's going to run. It's going to run the apt module, and the first parameter for it is nginx. Notice separated by colons here. It's going to run install nginx, and it's going to run update cache before it does that to get the latest package info. And you don't have to do that, that's optional. So your next one, specify the name. We're going to make sure the service is started, enabled, and not masked. So we're going to run the systemd module, and these are the parameters we're giving to that. So we're going to say state is going to be started, stopped, or restarted, and the name is nginx. Enabled equals true, so we want it to be, we want the service to be enabled, not just started, but enabled. So on reboot, it's going to come back up. And masked is no, because we don't want it to be masked. If it's masked, it can never be started. So you shouldn't have to specify this, but it's you may as well, just to be safe. And yeah, beyond that, we have the third task is template. Now we're actually going to take a template, and so we specify the source, and we're going to actually show you the template too. But templates, and it's a J2 file for Jinja 2. So that's the templating that Ansible uses. So you have your HTML file as a template, and that source file is going to have the variables filled in using this variable up here, and the destination is going to be var www html index.html on the remote host. And just to make sure it's readable, we're setting the mode on this. So with templates, you can specify the template, source, and destination. You can also specify useful things like the owner and the mode, basically the permissions on the file. So we want to make sure it's readable by all processes that might need to be able to read it. And it's not secret info, so we're just giving everyone permission to read. So that's what this does. Now, let's jump out of here. Let's save our changes and jump out. Now, before we actually use that, let's show you the template. So I put it in a templates directory to keep it separate from the playbook. So vi templates index.html.j2. So simple HTML page. Now this is not even valid HTML. I didn't put any HTML tags. That's fine. The web server will still serve this up just fine. I didn't want to make this an overly complicated example. So it's just text with one variable. So when you specify a variable in a template, you put 2 curly brackets to open it and 2 to close it. Put a space here and a space here, and whatever you want for this. So yeah, this is basically the template. This is the variable, so the name var1, basically curly brackets, then the variable name in there. That's basically going to substitute the variable for what's right here, right? So exit out of that, jump back into our playbook right here. var1, that's the variable we're substituting into our template. So it's going to take this string and substitute it in there, which we will see in just a bit. So let's try running this. So we can say Ansible playbook. Now we could do a dash lowercase k, uppercase K, lowercase b to prompt for the passwords and to tell it to become. But we've already specified become in the playbook, and we have passwordless sudo, and we have an SSH key. So we don't need any of that. So you can say web deploy like this. And we're going to run our playbook. And actually, I should not be running it from here. Should actually run this from the other window. But anyways, there you go. So the output's a little bit messed up because I ran this from this tab rather than the other tab. But you can see there, you can see first, before it does anything, gathers facts on these hosts. Then it runs install the package and update the repo info. Make sure the service is started and run the template on it, right? So there we go. Now let's just jump over here where we should have run it from. Now, let's say if we curl host 1. So we're going to curl from there, and notice we're getting that same HTML file, but it says test string 123 ABC. So running curl, we can access the web server on host 1, and I'm accessing this like live over the internet, and we can go ahead and just grab. You see basically the page it serves up is updated based on our template, and that is about it. So yeah, that's our useful example. Basically a playbook that installs Nginx, makes sure it's running, and installs a templated web page to it. And that's basically that should give you a pretty good idea of what you can do with Ansible. Now we're going to cover a ton of different other modules. Like sure, we have a few we've covered in here, like installing things on Ubuntu, starting and stopping systemd services, and templating. Templating is pretty powerful. We're going to cover a ton more stuff, a lot more features like loops and hashes and dictionaries and stuff like that, and all the different modules to actually get real work done. That stuff's coming up later on in the later videos in this series. So definitely stay tuned for those. Go take a look at the playlist and check those videos out. Remember, check the link in the description for commands and examples. Hopefully this was useful. Now, this video is part of a series, so make sure you check out the other videos in this playlist if you want to learn everything. We also put out a ton of other great tech-related content, including Linux and Windows stuff, hardware, software, coding, electronics, Raspberry Pi stuff, robots, 3D printing, networking, and a ton of other stuff. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. It'll make your feed that much more interesting. Also, make sure you hit the bell icon so you actually get a notification when new videos come out. And that's it for today. So, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on that next video.